Hello, and welcome to our career exploration chats. We have the lovely Miss Brandi Wallace with us today. She will be sharing her experience, her life, and what she's currently doing. So, without further ado, we have Miss Brandi.
Hello, thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here. So, thank you for the opportunity just to share my experience and my career. So, I'll just dive right in. So, I was always really, really good in math. And so, I went to Spelman College and I studied math. Yes, HBCU, the number one HBCU, if we're just talking about it, but um, so yes, I went to Spelman College where I got a scholarship for women in science and engineering. And I, I always tell myself and tell people that I was just trying to find a way to get to New York. So we had the opportunity to do a dual degree program because Spelman didn't offer engineering. So they partnered with different schools and universities that had an engineering school. And the school that I chose, I couldn't choose Georgia Tech, but that was right there in Atlanta. I chose Columbia in New York City, which was an amazing opportunity. So I did kind of an exchange program where I went and I studied biomedical engineering there at Columbia, which was like very humbling because I went from like being super smart, the smartest person in my high school, not really, but like really smart in high school. I was not valedictorian, but I was very smart. And then in college, um, really smart in college, good grades with effort, but not too hard. But then when I got to Columbia, I got some C's. I needed a tutor. Like I really got a little humbled and it was hard. It was very hard, but it was so rewarding to be there at an Ivy League school and to be amongst so many like really, really intelligent people. It was there that I realized that I did not want to do biomedical engineering. I felt like it was just like such a small piece of a smaller piece of a smaller piece of a really big, um, problem that we were trying to solve. And we were trying, as a team, as a collective team, I just didn't really feel impactful, like for me. So at that point, I decided to finish my matriculation at Spelman and finish my course load, and I graduated with my class in 2003 with a Bachelor of Science in Mathematics. And then I was set to go to graduate school. I said, okay, I will study biostatistics. I'll get my master's of public health. I got almost perfect score on the GRE. So I was, already set to go to Emory right there in Atlanta. I had a internship at the Centers for Disease Control, and that's where I met this beautiful, like stunning lady. She was also a Spelman alumna, and she was a director at the Centers for Disease Control in the Division of HIV and AIDS Prevention. And she was just amazing. She was like so smart, so beautiful, and she was always dressed so nicely. And of course, I remember what she was wearing all the time. So, so when I met her, she took me under her wing and I studied under her and I worked under her for the summer. And one day she called me in her office and she said, like, look, honey, like the gig is up. What are you really into? I know this isn't really your thing, you're good at it, but this isn't your thing. This isn't what you're really passionate about. So tell me what you're passionate about. And she pointed to a quote on the wall in her office and it said, go confidently in the direction of your dreams, live the life you've always imagined. And I took that to mean like, she's absolutely right. I need to go in the direction of my dreams. Here I was every summer trying to figure out a way to get to New York one way or another. And that was just where I wanted to be. And I wanted to study fashion. I wanted to do fashion. I wanted to just breathe it and live it. And from that point on, I said, you know what, you're right. I'm going to apply for design school and I will apply to Parsons and FIT. And that was it. So I applied to those schools. I said, if I get in, then I'll go. And if I don't get in, then I will go to get my master's of public health at Emory. And I got in. And then, so I got into Parsons, and then I had to tell my parents. So that was like the next big thing that I had to do. And I had to convince them that, that me going to design school and me giving up my fellowship to Emory and my guaranteed job at the Centers for Disease Control when I graduate, had to convince them that that was a good idea, which it was very hard to convince them. My parents are, yeah, middle class, working, American family, and a government job is just the quintessential meaning of success to them. So, um, but I had other dreams and I had other ideas of what success meant to me. And so I convinced them with a PowerPoint presentation, including statistics, um, that I wanted to go to Parsons, and I gave them all the reasons why they should let me go. I gave them statistics on a notable alumni that had graduated from Parsons, what they typically do, how much money they make. I found all this information, and I did this whole PowerPoint presentation, which I wish I could find. It would be really cool to look at now. But they finally said, okay, if you're so passionate about it, then, we'll let you go. And they did. And so that was our step one. They allowed me to go. And, of course they had to support me, and financially and emotionally. So, I was going to need all of their help, getting to New York and paying for New York, because New York is not cheap at all, especially as a student. So they did, and they helped me get there. And so I went to Parsons, and I really, really did enjoy Parsons. I really did enjoy, being there with other students. The program that I did was a program for students that had other degrees in other fields. So I was in class with other professional adults. I was a young adult, but I had already graduated from college. So people that had degrees in banking or business or something like that. And they were also in my class with me. So it was like we were all very serious about the career path. And so we all worked together. I made a really great network of friends and colleagues that helped me get through that design school. And then I got my first job at actually, I got an internship, which was unpaid. A lot of internships now are paid. So lucky to everyone else, but mine was unpaid. But that's how we got a lot of experience. So I did do an internship, and then I went on to get my first job at the Avenue. So I worked there for several years. And I will say that when I got that job, the application asked me if I was, if I knew Illustrator and Photoshop, and I did not know Illustrator and Photoshop, but I put that I did. And so I made it my mission to learn that program before I got there. And so by the time I got there, I bought a book that said, Illustrator for Dummies, and I read it and I figured it out before I started that position, so that I'd be prepared. And I learned a lot on the job, but at least, I had a little bit of experience that I taught myself before I got there. So then I remember being at the Avenue, and I had this really, really dynamic boss. He was a senior designer, and he was not born in the US. So he had a little bit of cultural difference from other Americans that I had been around. And this was my first time being in, the melting pot of New York. I come from a small city, well, medium-sized city, Fort Worth, Texas. And then I moved to Atlanta, and then, off to New York. And so this man, he was very, very talented, but also very, very like emotional. And so I don't even remember what I did wrong, but I did something wrong, being new, and he yelled at me. And I, from that, like at that point, I went into the sample room. I started crying. I called my mom immediately after that. Like, and I'm just expecting her to say, like, okay, pack your stuff up. You don't have to do that job. Like, get out of there. Let's quit. Let's find you a new job. I was really expecting her to say that. And I was really like, okay, I'm going to call my mama for this, because like that man should not be yelling at me. And she did not tell me that. She said, honey, if you are going to be in this field, you are going to have to get some thick skin. And that was probably the best advice that someone gave me at that point of my career. And I'm so glad I got it early on because I mean, how many times have I had people tell me they don't like what I've designed, and it just kind of rolls off my back. Um so that piece of advice, helped me navigate my career and help me just be a little bit more confident and like not let things get to me. I will say he didn't yell at me after that, because I did talk to them and I did like, stand up for myself, because like that's not respectful, and humans should respect other humans regardless of their level in the position in the job. But at that point he never yelled at me again. We had a mutual respect for each other, and but I also didn't let things affect me the way I did that day. So that was the valuable lesson that I learned that day. Um, and then fast forward, my next job was at Rockaware, and I really wanted to work at Rockaware. For those of you that don't know, that was the brand that Jay-Z started with Dame Dash, and so it was the height of urban wear. That was kind of what people were wearing during that time. It was really, really popular, and it was very cool. On I walked in my first day and I went into the lobby, and there was 106 in Park playing and the BT was playing in the lobby. So it was just like a cool vibe. It was just a cool place to be. Oftentimes the HR, person would call us into her office and say, "Hey, I've got one ticket for you to go to Madison Square Garden. Jay-Z is going to be playing there tonight. So you get one ticket. The show starts at 6." And so we would just go straight from work, and so I made a lot of friends there. The position that I did there was not design. I went from being a designer, assistant designer at Avenue, to doing production, pre-production at Rockaware, which I didn't necessarily really want to do production. Actually, I didn't want to do it at all. I wanted to do design, but they didn't have any open design positions. So I figured, let me just get my foot in the door. Let me get to know some people. Um, and it was really, really fun. I made a lot of friends. I learned a lot. I mean, I learned so, so much. I was in a position to work closely with a lot of VPs. It was a small company, so I was in a position to work with a lot of VPs. They trusted me. I learned really quickly. Um, and then fast forward to today, I have my own brand in which I produce and I design and manufacture things. And I absolutely would be lost if I didn't have that production experience that I gained at Rockaware. So, I'm a big proponent and a big, I know things happen for a reason. And so it's like one of those things that I'm just like, God, He knows the best way for me to move. So I appreciate like being put into that position, knowing that I didn't necessarily really want it, but still going forward and giving it my all, So after Rockaware, I went actually Rockaware from Rockaware, I went to Liz Claiborne. And then I did also another juniors brand, Lady and Nietzsche. That was another urban juniors brand. They have since been defunct now, but that was one brand that I did. And then I did some freelance work. And at that time, it started to be 2008, 2009, and the recession hit. And New York was the worst place to be during a recession because everything was so expensive and no one had jobs, including me, because one of my companies that I was working for, they went bankrupt. So they let all of us go. We all got laid off. And so New York was really expensive, and even more expensive when I didn't have a job. So I had applied to JC Penney, which I knew was like back home, JC Penney's home office was in Plano, Texas, and I was from Fort Worth, so about 45 miles from where I was originally from. And so I said, let me just apply. I'll just apply and see what they have. And I got a job there, and I've been there since 2009. I am now a design director there. I started out as an associate designer, and now I am a design director. And so I'm super excited. I've just gotten this position and this year, and it's been a really great journey. I've learned so much at this company. I have done kids, preschool, school age kids, tweens. I've done juniors. I've done a little bit of women's. I've done now back to kids, baby, and toddler. So I really do enjoy what I'm doing now. I'm doing baby and toddler, and I'm leading a team that designs all of the toddler and baby products. So it's really, really fun. And we get new customers every year because new babies are born. So it's really, really fun to watch and grow and see. Um, but I've learned so much at this company, and I've used things from every piece of my career, and I've learned so much from them, so much from every job that I've had, and I've taken it and applied it to every position that I've been in. So that's been really, really amazing for me to do. And then back in 2009, before I moved to Texas, I started my own brand, Sacred Heart Collections, and that has been my first baby. That's been my true baby. Sacred Heart Collections is a brand that I have been working on. I started out doing dresses and jumpsuits and jumpers, more cocktail wear. It's kind of evolved. The brand has evolved kind of with me as I've grown. Back in that time, I was like out on the scene. I was like in the club, and I was like going places in different events. And so my friends and I, we just wanted something that we could afford. There was no Fashion Nova. There was no Pretty Little Thing. There was nothing like that when I was that age and going out. And so I decided to create it for myself um, and my friends. And so I created dresses and jumpsuits for us to wear, for us to go out. You know, we couldn't afford to shop at Bloomie's and Nordstrom's at that time. We didn't have any money. So I just created it for us. And people would literally stop me and ask me where I got stuff. And, you know, like they'd want it right off my back. Um, and and then I started selling it. I started selling it on Etsy, on different websites, different like wholesale websites. I started selling it. I started selling direct to consumer. I started doing some shows, and it just got really popular. I met some of the right people, and it got into some stylist hands, and it just blossomed. It got, you know, on BET, VH1, um, UK Vogue, Glamour magazine, People magazine. So lots and lots of different publications that I'm like super, super proud of. And so many things I just was able to accomplish with like these hands. And I'm so blessed. Um, so I continued to evolve the brand, and I just continued to like make it what I want it to be, and actually what the customers were asking me for. And in 2012 or 2013, one of my sorority sisters, I am a member of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. So I one of my sorority sisters asked me for a cardigan. And since I had manufacturing in place, and I had the whole process down, and I had, you know, product already coming in from the cocktail line. And I said, sure, I guess I can make a cardigan for, you know, for our sorority. And I just sold it just to the chapter that I was initiated into at Spelman. And I got about 50 orders, I think, from that first order, which was pretty significant for me at that time. And and it was great. I mean, people loved it. And because all of the stores are across the country, it just kind of like blossomed and kind of just snowballed into like everyone, like even more different stores wanted this cardigan because everyone was wearing it. These 50 people were wearing it in DC and in Atlanta and California and everywhere. So it just kind of blossomed at that point. And I said, okay, I guess I'm gonna I guess I'm making cardigans now. That's what people want. And so we got licensed with the sorority. Um, and then we went to a conference. At this point, I met my husband, and he just kind of came along on the ride with me, like with my brand, and he's just been my number one supporter. So when I say we, it was he and I. We went to a couple shows, a couple conferences, and we like literally sold out of sizes, sold out like. And I, you know, I looked at him and I was like, we have something here. Like this is something different. Like who knew? Who knew people wanted to wear this stuff so bad? And what I tried to use things from my cocktail line, you know, kind of vintage inspired, really, really kind of classy, unique items, very, very just kind of bespoke, just beautiful items, beautifully created, but also wearable and not too gaudy or not too elaborate or not too tricky or fussy. So I wanted something for an adult woman, and at that time, myself, that would want to wear that either to work or to a meeting or just to anywhere. So it didn't need to be all over the place with letters everywhere and with symbols all over down your arm. It didn't need to be that. It just needed to be something simple and subtle and kind of like, if you know, you know. So that was kind of my mantra, and that I just decided I started creating things like that, other things, a part of the collection, and it kind of grew and it just continued to grow. And now we are now licensed for all four sororities in the Divine Nine: Delta Sigma Theta, Alpha Kappa Alpha, Zeta Phi Beta, and Sigma Gamma Rho. And just recently, we got a really big contract with Sigma Gamma Rho. So super excited to be able to celebrate their centennial anniversary this year with them at their Boulé, their conference that's coming up in July. So we have created some beautiful dresses for their organization. So it's right back full circle to where I started with my cocktail dresses, and now the dresses are just being worn in a sorority kind of format. So they're not as short as they used to be. So so yeah, so that's where we are now. It's been a really, really, really cool journey. I've learned a lot. I've made a lot of mistakes. I've made a lot of friends. I have a factory in China that does all my production, and the person that runs that factory is probably one of my closest friends. We have, he's been with me. He's been through all of my life's experiences with me. We've been together since 2009. So, he saw me get married. He saw me, you know, um, have babies. I have twins. So he saw me have babies, not literally saw me, but like he saw it happening in my life. um, so it's been really a joy to work with someone so closely and so far apart. We are miles and miles apart. I was in Louisiana for vacation over Memorial Day weekend, and we often, he and I are chatting on an app called WeChat. And so we were chatting on the app, and it was his birthday, and so I wished him happy birthday. And he said, "Oh, it's lonely for me this year because my kid and my wife, they're gone to visit her grandmother." And kind of in a lot of times in China factories, the factory might be in the city, but their hometowns are usually very in a rural kind of atmosphere, rural place. So they would travel maybe like 10 hours to go back home. So his wife was back home with her grandmother, and she took her baby. And so he said he was lonely, and he sent me pictures of his son, doing kind of country things, just like we were doing country things. So it was like really cool to see the contrast of like what a countryside country like events and activities would be in China versus like how they are in Louisiana. We were, in a gator farm and fishing in a pond, and very similar. He and his wife and his son were playing in a beautiful like hillside with all this beautiful grass, and so it's really cool to see that contrast. And we lead such similar lives, but we're so far apart. So I will say that's been pretty cool. Um, as far as design goes, it's really just a evolving kind of process. We start our process with, you know, concept and color and mood, and we kind of ideate the kind of things that we want to evoke for that season. We pull color inspiration from just about anywhere. There's trend services that we use, but there's also things that are just like inspiring in nature and in just pop culture and in everything. So we are looking at those to kind of come up with what our color palette will be. And then we we start sketching those designs, and we start sketching them in Illustrator. I'm really, really good at it now. I was not good at it before, but I'm really good at it now. So we start sketching our designs in Illustrator, and then we create what we call tech packs. And tech packs are basically like the blueprint of a garment. And so it's basically, if the factory that I work with, he's in China. There's factories all over the world, in Kenya, in Africa, in Vietnam, in just so many places, in India, so many different places where English is not the first language. Um, so we have to be very, very clear and precise on like what we want to convey in that design. And it has to be really, really clear for individuals that don't speak English. So we just make everything really clear. We call out like how big you want the stitching on your neckline, how long this should be, how long the sleeve should be, what color thread to use, what color buttons, what kind of buttons, 4 holes, 2 holes, like pearl buttons, plastic buttons, metal buttons, so many different things. So we call out all those different things in the tech pack. And then the factory makes that sample based on the tech pack, and then we get the sample in, and sometimes it's like, that's not quite what I meant by that, but it looks cute, or nope, that's not cute at all. So we'll have the factory either resample or we'll drop the style. And then we move on, we move this style on through production. We get orders for it, we produce it, we ship it out to customers, or in the JCPenney world, we'll have a lot of meetings about it. And then we'll talk about it for a very long time. And then we'll produce it. And the production time for JCPenney is usually about 12 months. So from the concept to when it's actually on the floor, that process can take up to 12 months. The actual physical production is probably happening about maybe 4 or 5 months, but up until that, there's some meetings that happen, there's color, there's approvals that happen. If you've ever gone outside in direct sunlight and you've had on a black top and black pants and you've noticed that they don't match, that's because there's different dyes that created that black. And usually there's a person that would make sure those two blacks match, but sometimes there isn't. So that's why you go outside and those two things don't match. So we have color approvals for that very reason. So if you have a top and a bottom and they're supposed to be the same color, then they should match in the same way. So those approvals can take a long time. And then there's a technical designer, the fit masters. We literally collaborate with them on the fit of the garment and the intention of how we want it to fit. Do we want it to be boxy? Do we want it to be tight? Do we want it to be, just however we want it to fit? And then they will help us kind of, get that with the factory. So there's fit approvals that happen during that time. And then finally, we have an approved garment, and then that goes into production. So it's a really, really long process, but it's so cool and so rewarding. It's really, really cool and rewarding to see people in your clothes. It makes me very, very happy to see people happy wearing my clothes, both Sacred Heart and JCPenney. I love to see people excited about what they're going to get next and what they already have. And so for JCPenney, it's really great because I get to see little babies wearing my stuff. And then for Sacred Heart, it's really awesome because I get to see a lot of Black women wearing my stuff. And that's pretty cool to see them all just so proudly representing their organizations with the clothes that I've designed. And I'm just super, super proud and blessed that, God has given me these gifts to use, and I'm able to share them with other people. So I'm happy, and I hope that I am making him proud by the way that I'm using my gifts. So yeah, that's pretty much my story. Um, I've had a really long career. I've had a lot of fun, and I intend to continue it and continue to have more fun and design more product and continue to work to make people happy by giving them something to wear proudly.